The mortgage industry is toast and has been for some time. There are always going to be a last few holdouts, but they too will eventually come to an end. And just to start, I have two close friends who are in the mortgage industry. One was in for about 10 years. Now, just recently, within the last several months, he has hung the mortgage hat up and is now a full-time public teacher. He made good money during the boom, during the real low interest rates and that intersection of low pricing, low home pricing, and the low interest rates. However, once the interest rates started climbing and the home prices have been climbing nonstop, eventually the business simply dried up and he had to hang it up completely. I have another close friend who has been in the mortgage industry about 25 years. The top of the game, absolutely crushed the industry, expert in his craft, and at the level to where he owned multiple homes, lake homes, had multiple teams, very successful. That person who is still in the industry, who is the most successful mortgage broker that I personally know, he has eliminated all of his staff and has no office space and is doing everything himself with what few loans are coming on the books. So his business is nearly dried up, and he was at one time at the pinnacle of his craft in that industry. So he's an example of sort of a last holdout, the last to shut the door. Outside of that, there's always going to be that niche area of that industry where we have very attractive females who are gaining a lot of business outside of, not maybe they do have expertise, but there's also the element of they are attracting customers simply from their attractiveness. That is also example of a last holdout. Now, the Fed is starting to reduce the interest rates. And people are saying, oh, that's great, you're going to get lots of refinancing, all of that. However, home pricing has continuously surged up. It has never stopped surging up. I mean, I would argue in most areas it's went up about 30% a year for the most part. That's never going to stop. That is a supply issue, and people say, oh, well, we get the interest rates down, that'll bring back the mortgage industry. No, it will not. If they start bringing the interest rates back down to where they were in 2019 and 2020, all that is going to do is to drive demand through the roof on mortgages. However, home pricing is going to surge up even faster than it did before. Increasing is going to basically dry up the demand. So yes, interest rates are going to, if they come down, drive demand, but that demand for homes is going to drive the home prices even higher. Now, the issue with this is, folks, people's incomes, most people work for an employer, and people do not have the income to get a mortgage. Now, there's always going to be an area of the population that will get a mortgage, and that sector of the population is the top 5% of income earners. So I would argue, say, $250,000 to $1 million a year. That range, which is approximately the top 5% of the population, they will probably continue to get mortgages. However, if that whole sector of the population continues to get mortgages and continues to refinance, buy second, third properties, that is still not enough to bring back that market. That little 5% cannot sustain that market. It just cannot. So, what are some solutions for the mortgage industry to survive? Well, first, the whole idea of a mortgage, it rhymes with mortician. A mortgage is basically to death, till death. The idea of getting a mortgage, the standard is a fixed rate, the 30-year fixed rate, which is pretty standard. That's not going to be affordable. It's just not. What's going to have to happen is we're going to have to start seeing 40-year, 50-year, 60-year mortgages, possibly lifetime mortgages, maybe even go all the way up to 80, 90, 100-year mortgages. That's what they're doing with car loans. Used to, a car loan was 3 to 5 years, sometimes 2 years. And now we're seeing car loans out to 7 years, 8 years, even some as far out to 10 years. That is about the only way at this point the mortgage industry will be able to kick the can down the road. It's still going to meet the ultimate demise because people's incomes are just not keeping up with anything. Unless you own your own business and you control your own pricing, your supply and demand, that is a very small section of the population. So again, most people work for employers and their incomes just cannot. That's been the case for a number of years now. So again, if they go to 40, 50, 60-year mortgages and on, that they will be able to kick the can down the road. But at the end of the day, home pricing will continue to surge higher and higher. If mortgage interest rates continue to drop, that's going to drive home prices higher and faster. If they go to 40, 50 and upwards mortgages, term limits, that is going to drive home prices higher and faster, faster and higher, all the above. And on top of all of this, most people want to try to get into single family homes initially. And even the people that get into the McMansions, most of them end up downsizing in the future. So the real, I would argue, what really needs to be built is single family homes, because that's typically where people start and then where they end up. The McMansion phase is typically only a 10 to 20 year period of people's lives. Most people cannot sustain that until the end of their life. They don't. So, but the problem with the supply of the single family homes is most builders don't build those anymore because they're simply not profitable. They build the McMansions because that is where the profit is. Now, also what we're seeing now is builders are focusing on apartments. If you go to any small town, especially any popular small town, they are putting a large apartment buildings on every corner. They are everywhere. They are building them taller and wider, more and more doors, because that's where most people are going. And I think right now something about 30% of people live in apartments. I mean, just in some of the small towns that I've heard about in the metro Atlanta area, we have multiple families living in 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. So that is increasing. They cannot build them fast enough. And I think it's predicted that 50 to 60% of the population will be living in an apartment in the next, I think it's 20 to 30 years. So the people that go into these apartments, they're not getting mortgages. So the whole idea of this video is to shout out to the mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders out there that This industry is on its very last leg. And unless there are some major changes happen where they go to 40-year, 50-year, 60-year and onwards, where they can kick the can down the road, they're in real trouble. Again, the two close friends that I know that have been in this business between 10 and 25 years, both of them did very well. One did exceptionally well. He's a last holdout. The other one is now a full-time public school teacher. So the writing is on the wall, and there are some things they can do to kick the can down the road. But my advice is find a new industry to jump into. And I just want you all to comment on this topic. Where do you think the mortgage industry is going? What are you seeing? I continue to see the last few people that are still in the market. They're not going to tell you any type of negative information. They are going to be positive and upbeat until the very end, until it burns to the ground. So unless you are on the inside of real estate, you're not probably going to know this information, or if you have friends that are giving you real data, not what they're pushing out on their advertisements or social media. You will never see these hard facts on what they push out. They will, just like that on that movie, The Big Short, when they're in that conference room and the stocks are crashing and people are leaving the room by the hundreds, and the guy on the stage is still trying to sell the very stock that's crashing, that's causing everybody to run out of the room. He's still laughing and smiling and being upbeat. That's my best way to describe to you what I'm seeing with the couple of people who are in the industry that are still trying to sell the positivity of it, even though it's all burning to the ground all around them. But eventually these things will come to light. Again, if these changes are made, they can kick the can down the road, but will it be fast enough? Will these changes be implemented fast enough before everything crumbles to the ground? That's the ultimate question. So I hope this video gets out there, because I want to see what the comments are and what people have to say about the mortgage industry. Do you know people on the inside? What is the real information that you are hearing? Not what they're pushing out, trying to sell, trying to get new business. What is really happening? So I've told you what I know, what I've heard, what I'm seeing. So I definitely want to hear from you all. So share this video, hit the thumbs up icon.